X-Men 97,
Okay.
3 episodes in. What do you have to say for yourself?
Okay. X-Men 97. I'll start off by saying I never watched a single episode except maybe two or three of the original cartoon. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're
if
too
I watched
cool.
them.
You were part of the
No,
Batman the Animated
I
Series
was
crowd.
part of the Batman the Animated Series crowd, and I couldn't stand the animation being so herky jerky. I was a snob about animation. But
Yeah,
that being said, I absolutely love this show. I love this show I understand it. Like I didn't have to watch every episode. I get why Jubilee's voice is the way it is, and Rogue's voice is the way it is. Even though I teased you before saying that they just sound like terrible stereotypes of, but like okay, I get it. It was for kids. Like oh he's supposed to be Cajun. And she's supposed to be from the
to the
Midwest or
extreme.
wherever. Yeah, to the extreme. I get it. And then Wolverine's like, "Hey, bub, I'm Canadian." I get it. I get it.
we got
So
a shout out to Gold Balls in the first episode.
and we got a shout out to your boy Gold Balls. Your
Yeah.
boy. What's up with your boy Gold Balls?
um,
And
yeah,
then
I learned an interesting fun fact today that Batman the Animated Series and the original X-Men cartoon not only came out in the same year, they came out in the same month. They actually were released in the
both of
same
them
month the
launched at
same
the
year.
same time.
Yeah.
Wow, I did
Yeah,
not
which
know
is
that.
it's interesting because yeah, I don't remember it like that. But anyway, it's
I
interesting
don't remember
because
like that, but
it's like not one copied the other in any way. Like they were both
no,
being
no,
produced
totally.
independently.
Yes.
Batman did have way more, a way higher budget than X-Men the Animated Series, which is
Oh, it
why
did. Okay.
way higher, which is why Batman looks so much better, and the animation in the original X-Men cartoon was just not all there. But it was still a great show, great stories, great adaptation of the comics, and what I found. So yeah, I agree. I think this show is great. I think it's phenomenal. I've been so impressed. The first episode, I was like, wow, this is really good. Second episode, I'm like, this is amazing. This is quality
Yeah.
content. Third one as well, I'm like, wow, they're just knocking it out of the park every time. I wasn't as huge a fan. I think it was very cool of the third one, but I appreciated like everything they
Yeah.
did, and nevertheless, it was still just great. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, what I was gonna say was that it's interesting because I feel like okay, all the say people my age, all the kids that were watching the show back then are the ones that are
How old
making
were
it
you when you
now.
watched it? How old were
It
you when you watched it?
What did it come out in 1992?
Probably
No,
94, 93, 94.
I thought
I'm guessing.
Batman animated series came out in '89, but I guess not.
No, 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 no.
Okay, so
I'm
1992,
going to
right?
guess.
Because it went 5 seasons,
You
and this
found
is
it 92.
97. So 91,
Right.
92, I was 12 or 13.
So 12. Yeah, that's perfect. Now I was like
So
double your age.
yeah, but I'm in my mid 40s now, so I feel like all of the people that grew up on this show are the ones and that loved it are the ones that are making it now. So it's back then it was a Saturday morning cartoon made for children, and now it's a cartoon that's made for the adults that were children back then. So it
But
just
it's also
feels
for children. Like it like
kind of,
I'd
I
be
don't
proud.
know,
Wouldn't you
like
be proud to show that to your kids? Would you have any problem showing that to your kids?
I wouldn't have a problem showing it to my kids, but in the same way that
Should
like
anyone have any problem showing that to their kids?
no, but being accessible to children versus made for children are different things, right? Like
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it's made for adults. There are complex and mature themes that are going
Yes,
on in this
for
show
sure.
that um it's like it caters to an adult audience, us in
Sure.
particular,
Yeah.
and it's suitable for children. So and I think that's great, but I love that it was and that's the opposite of how it was before, that it was like a children's show that like adults could be into too, and appreciate. In the later seasons it got way more complex with like multi-part, whatever it was. The Phoenix Saga was like 5 or 6 or 7 episodes long or something,
Wow.
um and that was obviously clearly that's more for an adult, I think, at that point.
I wonder.
But
I wonder if they were trying to make a theatrical released product there.
I don't know.
because
But I just
Batman did
feel
an
this
animated theatrical release.
the animation is great, the stories and the scripts are awesome. Everything about it is just it feels more mature, it feels more adult, but it's just so well done. And I was so impressed by the the second episode. You know, you watch something and I remember going back even you know, there's things that stand out in my mind like I loved The Matrix. Who didn't? Everybody loved The Matrix. It was a great movie. And, you know, finally the second one comes out, you know, whatever it was, 5 years later, something like that. So excited to see it. And I'm in the theater and I'm like 45 minutes into the movie and I'm like, so this is the sequel, huh? So like, I guess this is just it. It's probably not getting better from this point. And like, there was this kind of like realization, like not even halfway through that I'm like, I don't really like this and it's not very good. And I don't think they're going to be able to turn it around. And it just got progressively worse as the movie went on and then and even worse into the third one. The opposite of that, I'm watching this X-Men episode and I'm like, this is really good. And each scene, you know, follows the next. And I'm like, man, this keeps getting better. You know, Magneto's speech and the way, like, you don't even know what he's going to do when he like picks up the executioner and the UN officials, brings them up into the sky. I'm like, is he going to drop them? And all of his, you know, monologues were awesome. And then, you know,
Yes.
Storm losing her powers, like everything about it. And then Jean having the baby, even, you know, she comes out, she goes, Wolverine or Logan. He's like, what is it? Apocalypse? She's like, no, it's the baby. It's great. Um, so yeah, I feel like they knocked it out of the park with this show.
I
And
like hearing your giddiness about it
yeah,
because I
you
know
know, X-Men's my favorite.
you like the you like the X-Men and you like the original. So
I did, but
it's awesome to
also
hear.
I could recognize the shortcomings of the original. Like it wasn't perfect. This is getting
No,
closer to that,
this
you
is
know?
getting much closer. To me, my all right, so I watched all four, but we'll only talk about three. But I I am astounded at how freaking fast it is moving. Like it's moving real fast as a
Yeah.
show. Like I almost want them to just slow down a little bit. Like I want to get more out of it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so I
Yeah.
don't mind the melodrama moments, the whole Rogue Magneto. Love that. I have no idea where it's going. The
Yeah.
whole Gambit getting cucked kind of thing. I have
Well,
no idea what's happening.
I read
But
the other day, if it's true, that it was actually renewed for a third season. So it was renewed for a second season officially, I think before it even aired. And now I believe it was renewed for a third season. Now I
it
believe it was
is
renewed for a third season. But it's interesting because when they created it, they may have, you know, not known and just been under the impression like, all right, we get one shot, we get one season. Let's put these stories in
right.
without you know, without dragging them out. So yeah, that is some comments that there are some comments that I've seen online about that, you know, kind of introducing Cable as a baby and then taking him off to the future right away. Like, why not keep him around? Why not keep him around
Right.
for a
Yeah.
couple of episodes? Or they're kind of rushing
Right.
through it, but who knows? And now clearly they have the chance to really drag some stories out and develop them a bit more.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it seems like they're going to be sending Bishop back home pretty soon, too. And
That was a little bit
it,
weird because you know he just seemed like he was part of the team. He's just like he's all right. He's part of the team
my guess
now.
is they're going to replace him with somebody else. They want to keep. I'm guessing they kind of want to bring in a bunch of different characters so they could have a chance to play with other characters. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And you've got. I mean, he didn't do very much for the first couple episodes. He was there and he was cool, and I like Bishop as a character. But my guess is they're going to probably flop him out for somebody else and then flop that guy out for somebody. They'll have one rotating character so they can always be using new characters is my guess. But the animation is what I want to talk about because I'm very impressed with the animation because
definitely.
I wasn't impressed with the original animation. So
Yeah,
I'm very happy that is there. The story's moving very fast, which I don't mind. I don't dislike that. I wish I had more savory time with things.
yeah.
I absolutely love it. I love the
The
fact that
animation is great.
drawings look interesting.
There are minor details that are just you pick up on, like when you see Scott's eyes through his visor, or you know there was a scene with the baby had the face mask thing on, and you see the fog from the breath, and all these just like minor little details that they're paying very close attention to detail, and that's actually another thing I want to say about it being more adult. I don't remember ever seeing blood in the original series,
Probably
not
not.
unlike
It was
Star
probably
Wars or
made for
whatever.
daytime. It was
But
made for
now,
daytime
there was
TV.
you get these moments. Somebody, somebody was it Scott? Hit Goblin Queen with a blast or something, and she kind of like spit blood out, and you just like see it hit the ground. I'm like, wow, they're like going for it,
Yep.
This right now, X-Men '97 has got to be my favorite. I think it's the most well done, the greatest
Yeah.
version of X-Men. Days of Future Past movie was great. I thought that was really well done. I know you didn't like that it revolved around Jennifer Lawrence, but or Mystique, or
It has
either
nothing to
or
do with
both.
Jennifer. It really doesn't have anything to do with Jennifer Lawrence. It has to do with the character of Mystique. I don't believe at any time someone should have shifted the franchise focus onto. But like I said, whoever Jennifer Lawrence's agent was is a champion in Hollywood. Like she can turn a rock into a king.
All right, so yeah, that's my take, that this is, one of, if not the best version of X-Men that we've seen on screen.
Yeah. I mean, the animation's fantastic. I like that. I'm not as annoyed by the voices, so that's good. I think they kind of tone it down a little bit. Like I remember, I think it was, God, what is it, this one? Is it this one or is it the other one where everything she says is like everything Rogue says is like a parable or something like that? Like a
What, in the
or
old
is it
one?
like she's always? I think it's in the old one where she's just like,
Oh, she's
like
just
she's like,
using all those like old
yeah,
like
all
turn
those
of
dumb,
phrases,
yeah, like you're like a June bug in the Alabama sun and stuff like that, or something. So she just
Yeah,
keeps doing that. And I'm just like, stop that, stop doing that, stop it.
just have a normal conversation.
Just have a normal conversation. Yeah, you're fighting for your life right now. Leave it alone. Stop. Like, don't do that. I command you to stop.
It makes me actually. It's funny. I don't know if this is an intended effect that they have, but it makes me actually want to go back and and read. Makes me want to go back and read some of the old comics, some of the stories that they're
Yeah,
referencing, get some of the trade paperbacks, and go revisit Inferno or Extinction Agenda, or some of these
right.
old ones,
Yeah.
the Trial of Magneto.
I'd like to reread my entire X-Men time of. It's so funny. I have if I had to choose between rereading all the old X-Men comics I read or reading new X-Men comics, for some strange reason I'm just like, nah, I'll just go back to the one that I know I'm going to enjoy. Like, you know what I mean? Cuz there's only like 400. I'd read all the way. I'd like to read the Grant Morrison run again. I'd like to read the Extinction Agenda, the time when they were in the Outlaws, the Outback, Age of Apocalypse. I'd like to reread those.
Okay, so I was saying, you say you want to go back and read Extinction Agenda and some of the old stuff or whatever, and I get it, right? And I go through that as well, and I wonder, there's only so much time in the day, and is that is that like growing cynicism and being a little bit of a curmudgeon, like, the new stuff probably sucks, I'm just going to go back and read the old stuff? Because I think there's a lot of really good new stuff. I've heard that, and I imagine, and I actually started the Jonathan Hickman run, and I think Jonathan Hickman is phenomenal. He's one of my favorite
Which
comic
one's
book.
that? Is that the new one, House of X and all that, or
Yeah,
what is it?
yeah, and he's one of
Whole
my
new.
favorite
Yeah,
comic book writers of all
it's so
time.
funny. I
He's
think I
so
have a good
good.
stack of them all.
Yeah, he's his run on Fantastic Four, his run on Avengers, like he's just so good. And so I was very excited when those started coming out. But I have this thing where like, just reading a month to month is just too much, and there's so many offshoots or whatever. So I was kind of like waiting for it to all be done, and
Yeah.
I can get the collected. All right, here's your reading order: House of X,
Yep.
Powers of X, just start to finish. And now I have, and that's why I've started it, but I haven't gone all the way through. But yeah, I agree. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to go back and read some of the old stuff. but I do want to read the new stuff too. I want to give it a chance. I want to not be so
Well, they're about to
cynical.
relaunch it yet again, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Or
and I'm
reboot
fine
it.
with that. That's cool. That's From the Ashes this summer.
Do you think that
Um,
they're going to try and get us swing back in the direction of X Men '97 or Jim Lee's era X Men time, just to maybe capitalize on what's going on with the X Men and the growing popularity, or do you think they're putting it up? They're lining it up. You think they're lining it up for their next movie adventure?
that's a good question. I having read the MCU book, The Reign of the MCU, there was a time where I feel like that was unavoidable and inevitable, that everything there was this kind of alignment or like synchronization um, of not only like comic books and movies, but also like toy lines and stuff. That was actually one of the early issues they had before Marvel Studios. When X-Men launched, they ended up launching it like the movie 3 month, the first one, like 3 months early, and they weren't ready with the toy line at the time. Toy Biz wasn't ready, so Avi Arad and Ike Perlmutter were like, we gotta, take things into our own hands. We need to make sure we have everything. So we lined up that movie hits, toys are out on the shelves. So will they do that with the new X-Men series? It's quite possible that there is a lot of overlap and alignment where they're like, we want X-Men 97 to match with the comics, and we want that to match with what's coming in the X-Men and in the MCU, maybe. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit more of a disconnect where the there's not they don't have that committee, the oversight committee anymore, that's in charge of making sure these things are in sync, right, and aligned. So
Well, you have to
I'm not
remember.
saying that there wouldn't be any, but will the comics do their own thing and go off on their own direction at the same time while the movies are? I could see it, right, where it's not like, oh, we need this to line up with these characters that we're bringing into the
They could just
movies.
create another series of comics that goes along with whatever's happening in the movie if they want to. You know what I mean? Not that
Well,
hard.
they could, but I do think there's an interesting thing with like what's canon and what is considered like the main universe, right? You can do Ultimate line, but even like, what do you think the sales are like for, an X-Men comic versus, the X-Men movie adaptation series, or the X-Men, cartoon might get a lot of views, but X-Men Adventures, the cartoon comic, gets, like a tenth of it. So I think like they have to match it more, not just do an offshoot of, unless it's like a bigger thing, like the Ultimate Universe, and they can line that up. But yeah, I'm not sure. Well, as we know, as we talked about before, Age of Apocalypse was inspired by a
Yes,
two-part episode in the original X-Men
you
series.
told me I have to watch those episodes.
Yeah, it's fun. That's a good watch. The What I was going to say though was, okay, so here's an interesting thing, right? When the X-Men 97 came out, so X-Men started in 1963, and the first few years was kind of like, your classic like weird 1960s comic books, um, silly stories, Jean Grey using her powers to sidestep a pothole, stuff like that, Condiment Man or whatever. And
No, I don't think they
then,
had weird villains. Certainly not like Stiltman from Daredevil.
no, but you know what I'm saying, like the first, well, like, I mean, look, there was an introduction of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and stuff like that, and Magneto and Blob and all these classic characters, but you didn't get into the storytelling that you probably is most associated with X-Men as like the real like Silver Age stuff, right?
Until you
Well, I
get
guess
to
not. It's not even
Giant
Silver Age.
Size X Men.
It's yeah, Giant Size X-Men, which was 1975, right? 1973, something like that.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah.
so, and that's when Chris
Blob,
Claremont took over, right? 1975.
Brotherhood of
So,
Evil Mutants on episode 4.
okay,
This one here.
so 1975 is when, let's say, modern day X-Men really started, right? And so 1992 is when 1991, 1992 is when the X-Men animated series came out. So that wasn't even 20 years later, right? We're talking about 17 years after Giant Size X-Men number 1. So, um, 17 years worth of stories because they're not going back to adapt, the original X-Men stories from, the old
No,
school
they'll
comics.
if there's anything of value in there, they'll weave it in.
Yeah, yeah.
But you remember,
No, but
remember
what I'm
there was a
saying
lot
is
of
that
reprints in there.
what
Do you remember that?
that was before 75, right?
That
So
was
what
before
I'm
75, right?
so what I mean is that when they came out with the first series, they kind of were basing it off of 17 years worth of comic book history from Giant Size X-Men 1 till, whatever was going on at the time, and started
Right.
adapting all these stories and then making up some of their own, um, which was cool. And now you have X-Men 97 coming out, and it is 2024. And if it started in 1997, right? Because that's when the other one ended in 96. Again, they have another 17 years worth of stories. Actually, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, 17 years, right? 24. No, I'm sorry. They have 27 years
Yeah,
worth
of
of
course. Yeah,
stories.
not 17. No.
27 more years worth of stories that they can adapt and tell, as well as some of the old stuff, right? They didn't do the Trial of Magneto before in the original series. They didn't do Inferno. They didn't do Extinction Agenda. So, and it
No.
seems like now they're kind of exploring all that, but they still have another like 27 years of great stories to tell, which I find really interesting. I just started thinking about it because of Age of Apocalypse, and I wonder if now, maybe season 2, maybe season 3, they're like, oh, you know what, we did a 2-part Age of Apocalypse thing back in season 1, or season 2, but now let's expand on it, and let's
Right.
maybe do a multi-part thing, because we could really delve into what the comic books did, and if not Age of Apocalypse again, Grant Morrison run, House of X, Powers of X. There's like so much they
House of
have to choose
M.
from.
They
House
could
of
do all
M.
that stuff. House of
House of
M.
M.
They could do
There's
Civil War.
Civil
They could do
War,
Civil
Beak,
War.
Gold Balls. I mean, there is so much
It's
to.
limitless.
It's,
It's limitless.
yeah.
Limitless.
They have
They
to do
could
Gold
do.
Balls if they do House of X, actually.
They could create. They could do Ecstatic. What if they do an episode with Ecstatic in it? I doubt it. It's probably. I think that was part of. I think that was part of the. I think Mike Allred and Peter Milligan have a special deal where like they have to be involved, so they
Oh,
probably won't do that unless they ask them permission. And if they you know what I mean, they probably wouldn't.
they could do
However,
X Factor, but I hope they don't. They could do X Force, but they probably won't. Um,
they might just tease it and see if people like it. And then if people like it, they're like, "Oh, hey, let's do more of those." Like, "Hey, let's do the Jamie Madrox stories."
because it's Disney, I don't know how adult they would really go with. I mean, they're going more adult than I expected, but I don't know if they'd go full on covert X Force team of like, we're
Right.
going to go off and do the things that the X-Men could never be caught doing. Like, we've got to go murder a mutant that's too
Well, let's see how
powerful.
popular it gets. If it gets very, very popular, it doesn't jump the shark by the next 4 episodes or so, and they've actually get all the way through the whole season, and people are like, "Wow, that was way better than I suppose."
Well, they got
Because who knows?
two more seasons after this, so
I'm sure there are people who are already like getting ready to jump on them for one or two things. For they're just waiting in the wings for something to happen.
I mean, that's
So
already started from long before the show even came out, when they
you're
announced
right.
that Morph was non-binary.
Yeah.
But whatever, trolls are going to troll,
Yeah,
complainers are going to
exactly.
complain.
Troll gonna troll. Yep.
All right, so anything else to say
Well,
about X-Men
okay. So
97?
I would have to. All right. So overall, I like the animation. I like the story. Certainly like the storytelling. Well done. My thing is always story number one. Story
Yeah.
first, always.
Do you think
And
they're going too
anything
fast?
else can be sacrificed. Way too fast. I mean, not. I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm just
No, that's
saying
what I'm
like
saying. Like, do you think
stretch. I
they're
mean, she whiz, man. They could the whole. I mean, we got to Madeline Pryor, and then to the end of the Madeline Pryor story, to the Goblin Queen in 2 episodes over the course
yeah,
of 2 episodes. That was
yep.
way too fast. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying like I'm saying just slow down, give me more. Like I want more. Take your time, right? But
Yeah,
maybe
it's
that's
interesting because
what they're
Trial of
doing.
Magneto was like what, one issue episode,
Mm-hmm.
one issue story in the
Yeah.
comics.
About the cartoon, about the X-Men 97 cartoon, I really like it. Like the storytelling. That's my number one. Always my number one.
Yep.
Like the animation, and I like the voices. You know, uh, I think someone toned it down a little bit more than they did in the original cartoon. So I like all three of those. So this may officially mark a good. I have zero issues. So I have zero
All
issues
right.
with this
We did
show.
it. 3 episodes
We did
in,
it.
and it didn't take
Three
that long.
episodes in, and it didn't take that long. So
Yeah.
we'll see how long it takes for something else to have zero issues. I have zero
Yeah.
issues.
And I'm
Do you have
sure
zero issues with this?
by the end of the season, yeah, no, I loved it. I think it's great.
Yeah,
I
me
got no
too. Yeah.
complaints. I just want to keep
Well,
them to keep
yeah,
up the
we
good
have to
work.
revisit this at the end of the season to see if I still have zero issues.
Yeah. It may only take another episode or two. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool.
But
Well, thanks
good.
again
All right.
for listening. Leave a comment if you had zero issues. Let us
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Let us know what you had issues with, and let us know what you liked down in the comments below. We will see you all next time, where we'll talk about something else awesome.
Yep. Sounds good.
Have a good one.